If a British person tells you something is not bad, it's probably brilliant. And if they say it's quite interesting, they almost certainly think it's terrible. And if they say, I'm not sure that's entirely right, then you're completely and utterly wrong. British understatement. It's one of the most confusing aspects of the language, and today we're going to unpick it. We'll look at how British people downplay emotions, soften criticism, and say one thing while meaning something completely different, including the famous stiff upper lip and what that actually means in practice. So grab a cup of tea, get a pen and paper because there's a dictation at the end, and if you find this useful, hit subscribe. There's a new episode every Thursday. Let's get started. Good evening to you. Welcome to a cup of tea with John. British people often downplay. There's a verb for you, to downplay. If you downplay something, you diminish its importance, or you make something seem less important or less dramatic than maybe it is. So to downplay, I think we've seen this in a previous webinar. British people downplay emotions. Okay, we don't want any extreme emotions. No, it just will not do. It's not the done thing. We like to also soften criticism. Okay, rather than saying you're rubbish, we might say, well, you're not the best I've seen. Okay, so softening criticism or even disguising sarcasm. Well, that's wonderful, isn't it? So very, very common for British people to understate things. And never has I think the thing which encapsulates this the best is the famous keep calm and carry on poster. You all know the poster I'm talking about, don't you? Keep calm and carry on. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, these were made into mugs. They were made into T-shirts. It became very, very popular indeed. But I thought I'd go quickly through the history of keep calm and carry on, and then we'll move on to British understatement, and finally we'll do a dictation on British understatement. So here we go, the history. The year 1939. The phrase originated as a slogan in the spring before World War II. Anticipating the dark days ahead, the British government designed a poster to hang in areas being targeted by German bombers. Around 2.5 million copies were printed, but not one of them was posted, as officials had last-minute doubts about whether the content was too patronizing or obvious. Too obvious. You know, this really does sum it up, doesn't it? Imagine the population of London are being bombed into oblivion by the German bombers, and the government thought, no, if we tell people to keep calm, it sounds a bit obvious. Yeah, obviously we've got to keep calm with bombs landing on our heads. Of course. Don't patronize us. They also couldn't settle on an appropriate time to hang the posters, save for a select few. So this word save here means except. Except for a select few, the majority of the posters were destroyed. But in about the year 2000, somebody discovered these remaining posters and the history of it, and there was no copyright, so they bought the copyright and they used them for merchandising. So I'm sure you've all seen these over the years. Not so common these days, but certainly there was a time. And this keep calm and carry on is symbolic of what we talk about when we say the British stiff upper lip. You may have heard this before. Have you heard this expression, the stiff upper lip? Stiff being rigid, upper lip. So what does it mean, the stiff upper lip? Could anyone explain to me what they think it means? The stiff upper lip? What do you think it means, the stiff upper lip? And why have they chosen this expression, the stiff upper lip, to talk about the British? I'm curious to see if anybody has any ideas. To be a snob? Not really. A snob is somebody who looks down on somebody else. Maybe some British people are snobs, but that's not the same meaning as stiff upper lip. Marisa said to carry on regardless. Yeah. Yeah. Has something to do with resilience, says Susanna. I agree. Yeah, in reality, the stiff upper lip, if you think about it, it's not appropriate for British people traditionally to show strong emotions. So the idea was that a trembling upper lip like this, is a sign of fear or emotion. So a stiff upper lip meant showing no weakness, a bit like this. That's the most British picture I could find. So as it is, a stiff upper lip is the attitude. It's now the attitude. It symbolizes the attitude of the British to be calm in a crisis, to never show any emotion, or certainly no strong emotions, either positive or negative, to be conservative in the way you behave, and that is the stiff upper lip. And of course, all of this has led to British people inventing and coming up with different ways of saying things to avoid being too emotional or being too direct. So let's have a look at some British understatement. And this is really where understatement comes from. So, first of all, mild disasters and problems. When it's absolutely freezing outside, -10, you can say, it's a bit chilly. Now, a bit chilly could also mean it's a little bit cold. It could mean that, but we also could say it to avoid sounding overly dramatic. So, absolutely freezing, it's a bit chilly. It could be anything from a little bit cold to Baltic. Something went horribly wrong. We had a bit of a hiccup. A hiccup is, but we also use a hiccup as being a small mistake or a small setback. Okay, so if you had a bit of a hiccup, then usually, literally, it means we had a small mistake or a small setback. But we also use it if something went terribly wrong. Okay, we've had a bit of a hiccup, sir. The entire building has fallen down. It's not quite what I expected. I hate it. Again, it could be literally. If somebody's given you, maybe someone paints your house for you and you look at it and it's pink and you say, it's not quite what I expected. Okay, rather than, I hate it. No strong emotions. If you've completely ruined something, maybe by exaggerating in your behavior, you could say, I may have slightly overdone it. Again, sort of sarcastically. I think you've slightly overdone it with the salt. Slightly overdone it. What else have we got? Polite criticism and softened insults. It's not ideal. Could mean it's not perfect, but it could also mean it's a total disaster. Okay? First, my wife left me, then I lost my house, and then I lost my job. It's not ideal. Okay? I wouldn't have done it like that. That was a terrible idea. It's a great way of saying it. I wouldn't have done it like that. That looks awful. Well, that's certainly an interesting choice. We're trying to avoid being direct. He's unbearable. That's a little bit too strong. So you could say, he can be a bit much. Or another one, he's a bit of a character. He's terrible. He's a terrible person. Have you heard any of these? I sometimes talk about these on my social media pages. Finally, we've got understated compliments for the opposite, to not sound too happy. I remember listening to a guy who'd won the lottery in the UK, and they recorded the phone call between the company telling him he'd won and him. They said, "You've won, I don't know, 15 million. And he went, "Oh, it's quite a lot, isn't it?" Now, if that was America, you can imagine what they'd be doing in the United States. They'd be shouting and going, "Woo!" But in Britain, no strong emotions. You've been incredibly successful. He's got a Porsche. He's got a mansion. You've done all right for yourself. And this is perfection. This is perfection. That's a decent one. Cup of tea is just the example. So decent is the word. So there's a perfect cup of tea. That's a decent cup of tea. And finally, hiding enthusiasm. If you really want something, you can, rather than yes, please, you can say, well, I wouldn't say no. Or if something is quite good, suppose it could be worse. Could be worse, couldn't it? Been lying on a beach on the Costa Brava with no work for 2 weeks. Could be worse. And finally, it's actually quite nice. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. Does any of that sound familiar to you? And do you use any of these expressions in your language? Nicoletta says, a bit of a character. Dorothy explained it very well in Speak Like a Brit. Yes, I remember talking to my mum about that, being a bit of a character. If somebody is completely awful, you know, those people that are really over the top, there's a bit of a character. He's a complete asshole. Hopefully my mum's not here. Just check, because every time I say something like asshole, then my mum turns up and goes, "John, don't you say these rude words in front of the people. You're supposed to be professional. You went to university." My mum doesn't talk like that, but it's kind of how she might talk. I can only say that because she's not here. Please don't go sending her messages and say, "Dorothy, come on, look what your son's up to." Okay, so today we're going to do a dictation about this subject. Go and get a pen and paper. You're going to need it. We're going to start in about 30 seconds. Ruella says, I wonder how one can understand the reality about a bit chilly and go out without a coat and it's snowing. Yeah, it can be difficult to read British people to understand if they really mean it's just a bit chilly or if they mean it's freezing. Experience and context, I suppose. Okay, we're going to start the dictation in 15 seconds. Now, I'll explain how I'm going to do this. You'll need a pen and a piece of paper. Yes, we're doing things manually. I'm going to read a short text of about 100 words about British understatement. I'll read each sentence twice. I'll pause to give you time to write. At the end of the dictation, I will read the complete text again so you can fill in any gaps. And then at the end of the dictation, I'm going to show you the text so that you can check what you wrote. Okay? So I'll be turning the comments off for the duration of the dictation. If we're all ready, then let's get started. The British have a long tradition of understatement. The British have a long tradition of understatement. Comma, rooted in the cultural expectation rooted in the cultural expectation to remain composed and avoid to remain composed and avoid extremes of emotion. Extremes of emotion. Full stop. Showing strong feelings, comma, showing strong feelings, comma, whether positive or negative, whether positive or negative, comma, is simply not the done thing. Is simply not the done thing. Full stop. Instead, comma, politeness dictates Instead, comma, politeness dictates that emotions should be toned down. That emotions should be toned down. Comma, often to the point of absurdity. Often to the point of absurdity. Full stop. New paragraph. The concept of the stiff upper lip the concept of the stiff upper lip dash valuing self-restraint valuing self-restraint, comma, resilience and emotional control, resilience and emotional control, dash, has shaped British communication. Has shaped British communication. Full stop. Losing control, comma, losing control, comma, whether through excessive enthusiasm whether through excessive enthusiasm or visible distress comma, is seen as improper. Is seen as improper. Full stop. As a result, comma, as a result, comma, understatement allows people to express criticism comma, frustration or even admiration in a way that maintains social decorum. In a way that maintains social decorum. Okay, that's the end of the dictation. I'm going to read the whole passage again, okay, just so you can check and fill in any spaces, and then I'll show you. So, the British have a long tradition of understatement, rooted in the cultural expectation to remain composed and avoid extremes of emotion. Showing strong feelings, whether positive or negative, is simply not the done thing. Instead, politeness dictates that emotions should be toned down, often to the point of absurdity. The concept of the stiff upper lip, valuing self-restraint, resilience, and emotional control, has shaped British communication. Losing control, whether through excessive enthusiasm or visible distress, is seen as improper. As a result, understatement allows people to express criticism, frustration, or even admiration in a way that maintains social decorum. And that's the end of the dictation. So I'll put the chat back on for you. A bit easier than last week. So I decided last week was pretty hard. So I've made it a little bit easier, just so that we're catering for everybody. Okay. We've got a range of levels here between B2, C1, C2. So it's only fair that some weeks it's a little easier and some weeks it's a little tougher. But in the chat now, quickly tell me, how was that for you? Were there any words you didn't understand? Do let me know. And then in a minute, I'm going to show you the text so you can check what you wrote. Patricia says better than the last dictation. Probably easier than the last dictation, yeah. Proper good, says Oksana. Anyone else? I just missed a few words, says Rabia. Okay. Easier than last week, not so difficult. Okay. Keep your motivation going. you guessed a couple, a walk in the park. Good expression. Okay, let me show you the text and then you can check your spelling, check your punctuation, and also if there are any words that you don't understand. I'll read it for you again while you're checking. The British have a long tradition of understatement, rooted in the cultural expectation to remain composed and avoid extremes of emotion. Showing strong feelings, whether positive or negative, is simply not the done thing. Instead, politeness dictates that emotions should be toned down, often to the point of absurdity. The concept of the stiff upper lip, valuing self-restraint, resilience, and emotional control, this thing here is a dash, okay? Dash. I usually say dash, could be hyphen, but I say dash, okay? Has shaped British communication. Losing control, whether through excessive enthusiasm or visible distress, is seen as improper. As a result, understatement allows people to express criticism, frustration, or even admiration in a way that maintains social decorum. So, how was that for you? Anything that's unclear? I'm happy to answer your questions for these last couple of minutes. Any questions? The word decorum just means proper behavior. Okay, proper behavior or etiquette. Okay, or even your conduct. Anything that's unclear? Any words which you had problems with? What about the connected speech? The more dictations you do, the easier it will become, and the more your ears will be trained to listen to natural connected speech. Okay, good. It's not the done thing. The done thing means the right thing to do, the correct thing to do. Okay, so the done thing. If you say it's not the done thing, then it means that it's not the correct or the polite or the right thing to do socially or in terms of etiquette. You wrote the damn thing. It could sound a bit like it, not the dumb thing, not the dumb thing, not the damn thing, not the dumb thing. You're welcome, Diana. When you say self-restraint, I couldn't understand it. Self-restraint, self-restraint. Yeah. Again, be aware of this, of how I pronounce things. Self-restraint, because it all joins together. It's not self-restraint. It's like self-restraint. And I don't say self-restraint. Self-restraint. Anything else before I say goodbye? I think you've done very well. Yeah, I do use connected speech. Yeah, self-restraint is an example of connected speech. Okay, people, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you very much for being here. So take care, have a wonderful evening, and I'll speak to you all very soon, guys. Bye. Bye.